What if the moment we thought was Roman Reigns' moment of triumph became the exact moment his entire reign was thrown into chaos? What if, backstage, away from the cameras, away from the official record, something happened that changed everything? That's the scenario we're exploring today, and it raises questions about power, about threat levels, about who truly controls the narrative in professional wrestling. If you haven't subscribed to WWE Express yet, now is absolutely the time to join us as we break down the backstage angles that reshape the entire landscape of professional wrestling. Let's dive in. Imagine this scene. Wrestlemania has concluded. Roman Reigns stands victorious. The championship is around his waist. He's walking through the backstage corridor, surrounded by security, riding the high of championship success. And then, without warning, Femi appears. Not with negotiation on his mind. Not with respect. Not with the traditional challenger mentality. Femi attacks. He attacks the world heavyweight champion in a moment of calculated aggression that sends shockwaves through the entire organization. This backstage attack is significant for reasons that go far beyond the physical altercation itself. Because in professional wrestling, what happens backstage is sometimes more important than what happens in the ring. Backstage moments establish hierarchy. They establish who is a legitimate threat. They establish who has the power, who is ascending, and who might be on their way down. When Femi attacks Roman Reigns backstage, he's making a statement that transcends championship belts and official matches. Let's talk about what Femi represents in this moment. Here's a performer who has been established as a physical specimen, as a dominant force in his own right, as someone who possesses the kind of athleticism and strength that the wrestling world doesn't often see. Has been on an upward trajectory, building credibility, building momentum, building the kind of aura that suggests he's destined for great things in this industry. But an aura isn't enough. Respect comes from action. Respect comes from doing something that forces the establishment to acknowledge you. By attacking Roman Reigns backstage, Femi accomplishes several narrative objectives simultaneously. First, he establishes himself as someone willing to operate outside the traditional rules. He's not asking for a match. He's not going through proper channels. He's taking what he wants, when he wants it. That's a dangerous message to send in professional wrestling. That's the kind of behavior that forces security, that forces authority figures, that forces championship management to take notice. Second, forces Roman Reigns into a position of vulnerability. Because regardless of the outcome of the attack, regardless of who gets the upper hand, the fact that Femi would attack the champion is itself a statement. It's saying to Roman, to the entire organization, and to the audience, that Roman is not untouchable. Roman is not above being confronted. Roman is not beyond being challenged in unexpected ways. That's incredibly powerful from a narrative perspective. The physical nature of the attack matters significantly. Is able to overpower Roman? Is able to land significant damage? Or does Roman, even in an unexpected situation, demonstrate that he's still the superior athlete? The specifics of how this backstage confrontation plays out tell us something about the relative strength levels of these two competitors and about where the narrative might be heading. But perhaps more importantly, the backstage attack raises a fundamental question about authority in professional wrestling. Why is Femi allowed to attack the world heavyweight champion without immediate consequences? Who governs these situations? Does Roman Reigns demand retribution? Does he demand a match? Or does he recognize that has done something that has forced Roman to respect him on a different level? This is where the narrative becomes genuinely interesting because you have multiple directions this can go. If the authority figures, the general manager, the administrative body of the company, immediately punishes Femi for this backstage attack, the message is that even a strong, ascending performer cannot simply assault the champion without facing consequences. That reinforces the rules of the system. But if Femi faces no immediate punishment, if he's allowed to walk away from this attack without official sanction, the message is entirely different. The message becomes that if you're strong enough, if you're scary enough, if you're willing to operate outside the boundaries of traditional respect and tradition, you can make things happen on your own terms. That's a fundamentally different kind of power structure. From Roman Reigns' perspective, this attack is an opportunity disguised as a problem, because now Roman has identified a legitimate threat. Now Roman has someone who is willing to challenge him in ways that other competitors might not be. Now Roman has clarity about who matters in his immediate future. Femi has essentially forced himself into Roman's championship picture. The psychological element of this attack cannot be overlooked. Attacking someone backstage, outside the formal structure of a match, is an act of disrespect but also an act of pragmatism. It's saying that the traditional way of challenging for championships, the traditional way of building credibility, isn't fast enough. Femi wants to take the express route to relevance, and attacking the champion is his way of doing it. This scenario also explores the idea of generational shift in professional wrestling. Femi, as an emerging performer, is directly confronting Roman Reigns, the established dominant force. It's young ambition challenging established power. It's the next generation saying to the current generation, we're not waiting our turn. We're not respecting the traditional progression. We're taking what we believe we deserve right now. The location of the attack matters too. Backstage, Femi has the advantage of surprise. He has the advantage of environment. He's not in Roman's domain, the squared circle. He's in a space where physical power can be exercised more directly, where the structure and rules of a formal match don't constrain the physicality. This positioning suggests that Femi is smart enough to understand that sometimes the playing field needs to be tilted in your favor to make a point. The narrative fallout from this attack creates multiple story possibilities. Does Roman Reigns demand an immediate rematch, a rematch specifically designed to punish Femi for his disrespect? Does Roman, secure in his championship position, take a more measured approach, acknowledging that Oba is a threat worth paying attention to? Does the narrative eventually lead to a championship program between Roman Reigns and Femi? If a championship match does materialize, the psychology becomes incredibly rich, because now Oba has already attacked Roman. Oba has already demonstrated that he's willing to operate outside traditional boundaries. Oba has already forced the question of whether he belongs in championship conversations. The match itself becomes not about establishing that Oba is a threat, but about determining whether Oba can be a threat in the official, structured format of championship wrestling. Roman's character gains depth from how he responds to this attack. Does Roman, who has faced every significant threat and overcome them, simply add Femi to the list of people he's defeated? Or does Roman recognize that Oba represents something different, something that might require Roman to evolve his approach? That's character development that comes from unexpected challenges. The broader impact on the championship itself deserves consideration. When a performer attacks the champion backstage, it raises questions about the legitimacy of the championship itself. How can a championship be legitimate if it can't even protect itself? How can we invest in championship narratives if performers are allowed to assault champions without official structure? These are the kinds of questions that drive wrestling storylines forward. From a booking perspective, this backstage attack serves a crucial function. It establishes Femi as a threat without requiring a formal match. It demonstrates that Oba has the physical attributes, the mental toughness, and the willingness to do what it takes to be taken seriously. It suggests that Oba is someone management needs to account for in their championship plans going forward. The attack also potentially changes how Roman Reigns approaches his championship reign going forward. If Roman has been facing traditional challengers, traditional opponents, traditional structures, Femi's attack might force Roman to be more cautious, more aware of threats that come from unexpected angles. That's the kind of character evolution that makes championship reigns compelling. The fan response to this backstage angle would be crucial to its success as a narrative beat. If fans react positively to Femi for his aggression and his willingness to defy tradition, it validates the storyline. If fans believe that Oba has overstepped, that Oba has acted in a way that makes him look bad, the narrative takes a different direction. Either way, the backstage attack accomplishes something fundamental in wrestling. It gets people talking. It creates uncertainty about what comes next. Ultimately, what makes this backstage attack scenario so compelling is that it operates outside the traditional rules of championship wrestling. It says that not everything that matters happens in the ring. It says that sometimes the most important moments occur in the shadows, away from the official record, in spaces where ambition and disrespect can manifest in their rawest forms. That's the kind of narrative complexity that makes professional wrestling endlessly fascinating as a storytelling medium. If you want to explore these angles, these character dynamics, these backstage situations that reshape entire championship narratives, you need to subscribe to WWE Express. We dive deep into the stories that the wrestling world is telling, we analyze the character motivations that drive the industry forward, and we celebrate professional wrestling as the most sophisticated form of athletic storytelling available. Subscribe to WWE Express right now and join us as we break down the angles that matter, the threats that emerge, and the narratives that will define the future of championship wrestling.